I have got another idea for a vase, but for this idea to work, I need to cut some dados. So I am setting up my Laguna F1 table saw with a Diablo dado stack. I start by making sure that the tool is unplugged and removing the old blade. Then I attach the dado stack and make sure the rest of the table saw is. Now that I have my Diablo, I am setting up the miter gauge to cut these dados. It is time to cut these dados on this big piece of walnut that I've got. I did not want to cut these all in one pass. It just kind of freaked me out, so I took multiple passes. Table saw sled because these blades are 8-inch instead of 10-inch blades like this table saw takes, so they don't go as high up as I want them to. In the last video, you guys saw me cut dados into this thick piece of walnut that I'm going to use to make a vase. I wanted to inlay some pieces of cherry and some veneer into those slots that I cut out just to kind of add a pattern. I've kind of had this one in my head for a while, and this just kind of seems perfect for the person that it's going to go for. I love the combination of walnut and cherry. If you haven't noticed from my page already, it's probably my favorite wood combination, unless you get into like really fancy exotic bandsaw to trim up these little pieces to kind of make this piece of walnut fit. I just cut it up on the bandsaw and then it fits in the turning down this next vase using my carbide turning tools from Rockler. Once I got this piece rounded up, I started working on the shape I wanted for this vase. I think I'm going to actually cut a little bit off of the top so that the inlays are a little bit more focused on that stem, if that makes sense at all. Once I got everything looking good, I turned my lathe off and took a look and actually broke one of my little joints right outside of where the glue is. You guys saw in the last video I broke this vase that I've been working on, so I am going to glue it back up using some Titebond 2 dark wood and my Harbor. Now that I have the little piece that I broke off this vase glued back on, I can go back to turning it down using my Rockler carbide turning tools. I decided to take a little bit off the top of this vase to get my inlays a little bit more centered in the stem of this piece. Drilling a hole in the center of this vase using my lathe from Harbor Freight and a Forstner bit with an extension on it. I showed in the last video I've got a little crack I need to get some glue into. I got these little syringes off Amazon. These ones aren't the best, but the technique is solid. Center of this vase for the little glass vial to fit into. Once I get this drilled out, this off the lathe, once I get it sanded and finished up. Once I get it all smoothed out from sanding, it's time to seal the piece up with some shellac. Once I get the shellac applied, I let it fully cure and then grab my Brad's Workbench sanding paste and apply that pretty liberally. Then I remove the excess and kind of work it a little bit to remove any remaining scratches. Next up is the tung wax. I apply this and let this sit for a little while and then build up some time to cut it off the lathe. So I use my Rockler carbide turning tools to make some space. If you love seeing the vial go into these vases and how close the fitment is, so here you go.